There we go. Okay, now we can see who we get to. Oh, it's RWL7 we're going for. So.
Oh, and they've landed somewhere else in Greasy Grove, and there's a fight going on.
Yeah, fight going on. They've already taken one down. You can see a couple of buildings around where camping store normally is, but RWL7 with that gingerbread skin on RWL7. Oh, gets the headshot, or at least the falling shot. And that's the entirety of the enemy squad down by the looks of it. Picking up a few legendary guns, picking up a few greys off the floor. Looks like a comfortable first fight for RWL7.
I am assuming, guys, that we have consistently started to spectate relays again.
We haven't actually. Last game
really?
we got Evil
ONF.
from ONF, yeah. So
Yeah.
Really interesting.
You did miss though. UKN took game one once more. Excoundrel.
okay.
So consistency across the board, really, from the UKN squad, which is lovely to see in the early stages of competitive Fortnite. But
Yeah,
RWL7 have landed somewhere completely different, which is also good to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Wailing Woods definitely gets tiring after just a little bit of spectating. But it's nice to see that. I think what's important to note about that UKN thing is that for a competitive game, it shows that a certain level of skill will guarantee you victory in some way, shape, or form. That this is like 100% got a massive skill base sort of factor to it. And I mean, you can even see that with Ninja, right, and his win rate. I mean, I don't think anyone would argue any differently, but it's nice to see that it translates to this competitive setting as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. One of the things that has always been difficult in competitive battle royales, and something that's been definitely a potential point of negativity, is the fact that battle royales are RNG based. Loot is RNG, the circle is RNG. So it makes very difficult for players to actually impact what they want to be impacting, essentially, for the game. But with Fortnite's building mechanic, with mechanics such as the jump pad, it actually gives the players a lot of control, even outside of the RNG aspect of how they take team fights. And so when you see teams like UKN consistently getting those top placements in these skill custom EU games, it means that they are the masters of their destiny, and that Fortnite's competitive scene definitely has a lot to show.
yeah, for sure. And I think that's where, when we actually get tournaments, it's gonna have that next step of evolution as well, because a team like UKN, who are consistently doing well, doesn't necessarily mean a lot right here, where there's nothing on the line, there's no point system weighted behind it. But if you've got a team that is always in top 5, winning a handful of games, it's very difficult to actually beat them in those cumulative points games. I mean, you watch the invitational they had for Star Ladder for PUBG, and it was different teams taking different games, and very difficult to actually get that lead. Apart from for one or two teams, very difficult to actually accrue points at the same weight that UKN you'd imagine would be doing if we were weighting it here.
Yeah, I think part of the reason that comes down to what Dowsey quite succinctly kind of pointed out, which was the building mechanics are something that everybody has access to. It's not hard to get to a point where you have enough resources to have complete freedom with your building mechanics. But also the fact that it's really difficult to actually get screwed over by the circle in Fortnite. Like towards the later stages, definitely the case can happen. But the first few circles, because the map is actually quite easily traversable in almost any given situation, you can actually get into the playable zone quite quickly on Fortnite. So alongside that, with the building mechanics, it's not as harsh, because in PUBG, right, if you don't have a vehicle and you're on the other side of the map, you're donezo, like in a lot of ways. Like, but in Fortnite, you don't actually have to have that kind of restriction. So you could land in Junkertown, and as long as you appropriately time it, you can walk all the way to the playable zone. So you never really get completely done over by the zone in Fortnite. And alongside those building mechanics, like Dowsey said, a little bit more freedom for what you can do.
So Dowsey, talk to me a little bit about RWL7 right now. He's got himself, I believe that's, he had the TAC out. He had a hunting rifle out for a while. I was going to say, talk to me a little bit about the hunting rifle, because it's, 215 on a green one to the head. So just one shot from a distance will rip through an entire shield and health bar.
I feel like the hunting rifle is going to be like a competitive player's choice in a lot of scenarios, maybe even more so than an assault rifle, especially for that first shot. When you stand still, 100% accuracy, like you said, 215 to the head means that's an insta kill to anyone with 100. It's 90 to the chest, so, or any limb, essentially anything not the head. So that pretty much removes anyone's shields. But as you're seeing, especially in these early stages of the game, because looting is so much more difficult in competitive games, because players aren't as willing to be as brave as you might do in a squad game. A lot of players actually aren't fully shielded up. RWL7 here only has 91 HP, and so a hunting rifle would tag him right down to 1 if it was green, and if it was blue, then I think it's 95 to the body, so that would outright kill him. So that's that makes the hunting rifle very, very powerful weapon, especially in the early game. I think a lot of players may favor the more scoped bolt over the hunting rifle towards the end game, because you can be slightly more accurate and know exactly where your shot is going. But it's definitely a fun addition to Fortnite, and especially that 100% accuracy when standing still makes it very powerful.
Interesting addition to your point there is that if anyone's watched Ninja, I'm sure most people has. I mean,
have you heard of this guy called Ninja?
He
streams some Fortnite.
But he actually mentioned yesterday on stream that the hunting rifle is his favorite weapon. He hasn't quite figured out how to use it properly yet, but he just has mentioned that it's his favorite weapon in the game. So it shows a lot of promise as being a very highly competitive weapon. And I think, Dowsey, you could be right, especially for that first entry shot in the mid-game engages where you maybe have a bit more room to play with. I think, yeah, definitely something that we'll see a lot more of.
Yeah, I don't think many of the high-level players would argue with Ninja on it being one of their top weapons, just because that's the difference between playing kind of regular or casual games and then playing against people that will headshot you just about every time you peek. Obviously, yeah. The hunting rifle becomes incredibly effective because even the grey one rips right through 100. It's just over 200 damage. I think it's like 204 or something like that, which is crazy.
202. Yeah, 202. The grey one to the head. Yeah. So
I have never found a grey hunting rifle.
Neither have I.
I believe it existed very early on and got removed. But one thing that should be noted, and this is very true in battle royales across the board, is actually that snipers are slightly less effective, really, when it comes to competitive games. Most players will not give you the opportunity to snipe them very easily. Their movement is slightly more erratic, making it hard to snipe them when they're on the floor. When they're in buildings, they don't hard peek. They will only go up for a split second to fire a sniper shot if they are willing to do so. So whilst in our solo games and our squad games that we would be players as friends, sniping can be very powerful. Often in battle royales, teams do find it far more difficult to land the sniper shots. But we do see RWL7 going for it. There's a tag with that sniper, so that shield's gone, and now that makes pushing a lot easier.
Yeah, for what I've seen from most high-level competitive engages, especially towards the late game, it's really dominated by your ability to build upwards and look for opportunities to get in AR and shotgun range. From what I've seen, especially in the late game, and also dominated by a lot of grenade launcher and rocket use to make sure you're creating space for that. But I think you're right, Dowsey. Like, a lot of these sniper battles are kind of more prevalent in solo queue. You don't see as much of it. The switching between battles. You can see right here the rushing tactic to get in with the AR range is really important to sort of these high-level engages.
And this makes it pretty difficult for RWL7 when you look at their position. RWL7, he kind of ended up boxing himself in for a while. They're now trying to desperately create a little bit of high ground for himself, but he's contending. Oh, doesn't have his gun out yet. Manages to place down a ramp piece just to save him, as that would have been a shotgun pretty much to the head if he had taken that full on, but he's lost track of everybody.
Does have the high ground though. This is so important for RWL7. It looks like the knocks are going to start coming through. Potentially though, not for RWL7. It's favoring the enemy team, and that's going to be Chinese symbols taking out 2 of the members. The zone's coming in as well, and health is not unnecessarily on RWL's side here. As he gets tagged down. He's dead here unless he has a bandage. There's no way he gets into the circle, so he's just going to go for damage.
Yeah, he actually gets the knockdown on Speedy there on his way out, though. See if he can crawl the distance, try and make it over to the game area. Not too far to the next storm for them to go, so they can take their time.
Well, looks like his teammate's going to res him, maybe drop him a couple of bandages if they've managed to find that in those recent engages, or a med kit. And we might be in a position where they can actually escape this. Looks like that might be the case.
Yeah, they will be able to. Even if it was a 30-30 like knockdown again, they would be able to get out of that. But it would take time for them to do that.
Since this is the second circle, the tick rate is now at 2 damage per tick. So does hurt a lot more. We'll have to see if RWL7 does get himself killed to the storm, or if he just does go for the bandages. It's so much more safer to go for the bandages here. But if you can afford to get knocked by the storm when you're under 30, it's something that some players will go for. The next circle, though, stress, as we can see on our minimap, is very close to RWL7. It's going to be all around that retail row, that tree area just north of it. This is a very interesting zone because there's a lot of valleys and hilltops that teams will be looking to try and conquer for themselves. And oh, there it is. That's cheeky. It's going to be the rotation from the storm. RWL7 is able to stop it up, and he's going to go and check out what this guy had to offer.
Yeah, he sees, I think there's a campfire that he spotted and a sniper rifle alongside it with some shields. So it definitely ends up being worth it. That campfire, obviously 50 health is going to come back over to him. As will be just a nice little way of getting higher than he was just off those bandages alone.
How many minis? Just one. So 25 shielding. He can get himself up very much close to... In fact, he can just get up to 100 HP. And if his teammates need some healing as well, they're going to be able to jump up over that 75 health mark up towards the 100. So this is a huge win for RWL7 at this point, as they're going to be able to fortify their position in this last circle. As we can see, so many more people have died so far, Stress. We're only down to 23. Whereas before there was roughly about 30 people kind of in the circle that was the one that's closing now. So like that's far more people have died, but we did start with less people, so do have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Pushing in now towards this circle here, and these guys have done really well to survive this long. Had some really nice building techniques in some of their previous fights, although obviously we saw RWL7 get knocked out. Eventually, they managed to build up to a point where they had that height advantage, like Dowsey said, and we haven't really seen these guys do as well as this before. I think we've seen them get sort of in squads, maybe the top 6, top 7, but never with this many kills to their belt or sort of, I guess, accolades in terms of those engages. We often see them kind of get taken out in their first or second engage. So
yeah,
it's nice to see these guys perform.
Last week they got pinched really hard a few times coming down.
Yeah.
Interesting. There's a couple of chests and things to loot in retail. Some shield potions, very important. And another set, so that's at least going to be RWL7 with full shields coming through. The importance of that can't really be understated. And there's the campfire play as well.
I wonder if he will waste that 25 of the shield. I actually think that he's more likely to hold on to the big pot and really just wait for an opportunity where he can get full usage out of that full shield pot. I think that's kind of the mindset of a lot of high competitive players, is that when you are playing these, skill customs or snipe scrims, whatever it may be, unless you have an abundance of shield, which potentially RWL7 may feel they do have now, you don't waste resources at all. And so we'll be very interested to see if he does actually go for that 25 shield that he would get from a big pot, or if he holds off.
That's a fair question. It is obviously the difference in a shotgun battle. For instance, if you take somebody on with a purple tactical shotgun, that would be the difference between being downed and being alive, is it's 185 damage to the head. So we'll see how it comes back to maybe bite him. My premonitions aren't quite that strong on this one, either.
They swapped a bit of resources around. I think actually RWL7 was short on wood, and he gave some brick over to his teammates. So they were actually just swapping some resources around to make sure that they could hit those caps. I think RWL7 must be sitting at 999 wood now, because there is a pile of wood there just behind him, and he's not automatically picking it up. So got a lot of resources to work with.
Yeah, as wood as well. A lot of people have been finding out that it's a little quicker to build with at the end of the game. The metal takes longer, so just start throwing up wood in front of you.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of endgame users actually default to brick towards the engages that they feel like they're going to have to face a lot of rockets or a lot of grenades with, because it's actually got that nice middle ground between being kind of not so long to build, but also being slightly beefier than wood. Wood tends to come out in those engages where you're just getting shot out, you want to block an initial rocket, or you want to block a couple of hits.
Oh no!
Didn't quite get the shot. But now he may be able to secure the high ground for himself running over. That's a rocket down through as well, but they got to contend with the push on 3 sides at least here for RWL7. This is where he's in danger. 113 health total means he is very desperately trying to find an exit route here and trying to reassess the situation on this fight, but he cannot get an eye on anyone.
No, this is classic RWL7 getting pinched from multiple engages when they try to find an opening. But it looks like he's actually managed to get himself off pretty well here.
Oh, actually ends up getting knocked immediately. Oh, by
one of his teammates of all places. It looks like RWL7 have multiple people playing in this squad game here, and so that's going to be an unfortunate ending for RW7 there.
Yeah,
Taking
now
a few shots there.
we're on board with sorry Hanzo main, who seems to be playing the wrong game at this point.
I know he's playing like a Hanzo main right now, just, casually firing shots and hoping they hit someone.
He is set back. This would lead me to believe he might be the last one remaining of his squad. Like, we don't have that confirmed, but it would lead me to that suspicion the way he's playing this.
He does have center circle.
Oh,
so
somebody is
doesn't have to
around
do anything.
him though. That the supply drop did just open, so perhaps he has got 1 or 2 squad mates with him.
He's taking some
Down
aggressive shots.
Down to only 12 people left here as well, and I haven't seen UKN at all in the kill feed. So potentially they've lost their lives already. Currently trying to hold off. That's fire coming back towards him. It's kind of dangerous to go for these peak battles, because if you are just a solo against 2 against 3, then the odds are not in your favor. But he is desperately trying to make the proactive move here. We'll have to move position in about 55 seconds. That's something he has to worry about. And there's the
And because of the
as well.
rocket, yeah, he's gonna have to move a little sooner if he wants to keep some of the position that he has on that storm. That is a colossal fight going up over there underneath that structure. We don't quite see who it is, but Gandalf, who I believe has been with UKM in some of the custom games before, has just fallen.
It's interesting that he didn't choose to build much himself here, more relying on his area in the center of Retail Row, just trying to provide the cover for him. He's actually getting fired at now, so he builds up a pretty solid piece of wooden outcropping.
Now he has found himself in the new circle as well. So right now, Hanzo main not willing to venture out too far. With only 11 left alive, he's at least secured himself a fairly decent positioning. There's his teammates,
Yeah,
just
3 of
behind
them.
him. So all squires, blue squires, looking to hold together a bit of a fort. They do have this building that they can fall down into. Makes rocketing it very difficult, actually. The amount of rockets needed to take down this building would be a lot. And so they've actually got a fairly decent fortified position. Even though it's low ground, the structures are far more fortified than potentially the man-made ones that the rest of the players are dealing with.
That's a difficult point now, though, as we're waiting for the next storm, or at least the zone, to come in. Only 10 seconds before we'll see where it is. They're getting a lot of grenade fire raining down on top of them at this point. And will they have to move? 3 seconds and they'll find out. Yes, they will.
The circle can come in. Yeah, this is where the circle can really come into play. It's at this point where you've got massive monoliths being created and huge amounts of resources being invested in these kind of defensive structures, where the circle can really play fool with you, really.
So much focus being placed down on where Hanzo main's squad is at this point. All of these rockets, constant fire on the reload, making it very difficult to get the revive off. And with only a minute to go until that storm starts closing in, you can see it. It's basically touching them at this point.
But like mentioned, it's very difficult to pierce this building here with just rockets alone. And so realistically, for the team of Sorry Hanzo main, it's going to be that circle closing that's going to seal their fate at this point, and it's really just covering, suppressing fire to keep them on their toes. They have to go towards that brick structure that they see towards their north. That's where the circle is. They've got people on their northwest as well that's going to be troubling for them. And so unless they can find the knock onto a single member of their opponents here, actually pushing towards is such a dangerous thing. And so with only 10 seconds or 18 seconds, left on that circle closing, they're desperately trying to find that single knock that's just going to make it slightly easier so they can rotate.
Yeah, they're looking for sort of that long-range hunting rifle to pick off, and then that gives them that man advantage. They can maybe try and rush one of these structures, but I like what the team is doing there over to their north west, just really building up, making it difficult. Even if they wanted to go for an engage, it might be difficult to push on top of that building. And it's interesting that both of these squads that they're facing are not really invested in dealing with each other. They're just looking to pinch this Squire squad, is what I'm going to call it from now on. But this is a really clever move coming out from Sorry Hanzo main there.
Yeah, just placing some floor pieces down on his way across to make sure that he couldn't get picked off from the top. He's on a one-man mission at this point, trying to spiral his way up. Actually doesn't quite get the high ground and gets taken down by a shotgun. And at this point, I think we're just going to end up watching him bleed out for now, because the attention has to go towards the rest of the team that are closing in.
Yeah, Kling takes him out, but unfortunately for Kling and his squad, they've lost the circle. It's gone northwest once more, meaning that the team that we did see over there from the northwest will be the ones in a position. We are stuck watching Sorrow Hands Main locked into a brick building. Oh, he's getting revived! It looks like they've pushed on up. This could be okay for the squad.
Yeah, somehow they've managed to find a man all the way through.
Wow, they really are squires. They are trained in storming the castles. they have breached the walls. This team, we should never have underestimated them. Stress and Dowsey, never have underestimated them.
Well, the balloon is falling past, and nobody chooses to ride that down. Obviously, would be exposed at this point. Looking for perhaps, how many people are left, do we think, at this point? So 6 total.
Another squad.
So one squad. Is it one up high?
I believe there's 3 squads. This is Sorry Hands Main. There's one on the ground, and I think one up in their brick structure somewhere still as well. So they're playing. There it is. Yep, someone dropping down does get knocked out. There is going to be Sorry Hands Main taking out them. You can see people around him. He's trying to build up, get high ground, but high ground has already been won by someone. These endgame circles become just a maze of structures as you try and be on the top side of it.
And he's only got 20 health, so he can't even really risk jumping down. Now he's got the high ground, manages to take down Kling. That actually puts us now to 2v2, and he gets the last one!
Takes out Kling, who previously knocked him, but didn't go for that endgame move onto him, potentially feeling a little bit like that was a mistake at this stage, but hindsight is, of course, 2020, and sorry, Hanzemain will find the win for the game.
Finds the win, and yeah, it's all going to come back to that decision, not getting the execute. Now, I think 9 times out of 10, that's probably going to be the right one. Realistically, like, if you're in that last position, you're expecting only maybe 2 people from a squad, you think, okay, 2v1 will take it. And doesn't end up happening. That revive was sick, though, managing to get back up all the way to the top, gets the revive. And that's the win for Sorry Hanzemain. I think, what was that, 2 kills by the end of it? 3 kills, maybe?
3 kills in the end, yeah, 1 over there, but that's from 0 to 3. That's a very standard thing, really, in these competitive games, is that you're not playing for kills, you are playing for the win/placement. And so, you know, just turtling up on top of a retail road for the majority of the game, would be surprised if they landed here. Just holding up towards the end. If you've got the building skills, which we saw Sorry Hanzemain has, if you have the accuracy as well that he did, makes things quite an interesting game when you are just playing for placement.
Definitely sounds like a Hanzemain. Sit around not getting any kills for a while, and then right at the end of the game, pick up 3 kills. The equivalent
get the
of getting the ultimate.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I know Lynx was trying to get things sorted for maybe the next games. We might be running duos at some point. I'm going to find out more information while we go on a break for a few minutes. It might be a long break again, just like last time. So stick with us. I'll give you an update as soon as we can get one. But hopefully we'll be back with more games here for the EU Skill Customs.